Hello again. So the question is reading and studying necessary for spiritual growth? Well, is watching YouTube videos necessary for spiritual growth? Is asking questions necessary for spiritual growth? So this is a question, or it's like a theory that I have seen published in some Facebook groups where some people view studying as unnecessary for spiritual growth, and that if you look for answers by means of reading and studying, you are deceiving yourself. And I find it strange. I think that is a very strange theory because I, they say that you should just feel whatever you feel is correct. You find the truth inward by going into yourself, and in part that's true. But how do they know that if they have never studied? So studying and reading is just a means for acquiring knowledge, information, getting to understand the things that you feel, because we have to work together with the mind and the heart. So what I have uh, what I have always believed is that the heart is deceiving, not the mind. Like the rationality and logic is like properties of the mind. The rationality and logic is like properties of the mind, of the ego, of the thoughts, and then the emotions and the desires and the deceives as a result of desire without the logic to accompany it is products of the heart where the mind is disconnected. So you might as well ask them why ask questions at all. Like reading a book is just a way to receive information, to acquire knowledge. Just by you can do the same by listening to a conference like on YouTube, or you can have an audiobook and just listen to it, or you can watch a YouTube video like you're doing now, or you can like watch a documentary or a movie or whatever. There are no difference in the essence of the meaning or the purpose of what you're doing. What are the reasons for reading is to get to know more about the things that you would like to know more about, because uh, it is true that we find answers inward, and there are also people that are born very sensitive and they have maybe a lesser necessity of studying because they live in a more conscious state than other people do. But not all people are that conscious to begin with. So I think that studying is very helpful. So, well, you can also think about what are the reasons for you, uh, wanting to get to know more about the alternate universe, the holistic universe, the spiritual universe. What are the reasons? If you just do it on a very basic hobby level, you just want to feel a little bit better about yourself, then possibly reading and studying different kind of topics is unnecessary. But there are many interesting books that you can read on many different topics, and they often present information in different ways that can be very helpful for your own growth. And that has been my case in particular. So, in the thumbnail of this video, I have two books in my hands, and I chose those two books because they have been very helpful in my journey, so to say. So, one of the first uh, books that I this is in Spanish. So, this is like uh, the Book of the Spirits, written by Alan Kardec. This is a 1911 edition, written in Spanish. So this is a book containing 1,018 doctrines on the on Spiritism. 1910. It's from 1910. So it touches on many interesting subjects that I never thought about. So, and the other book, which I'm about to finish reading, it's called Septenary Man, or The Microcosm of the Macrocosm, a study of the human soul. written by Jeremy A. Anderson. This book is from 1895, so it's also um, an old book, but the information is interesting. Anyway, I like to read books from far, or like very old books. How do you say? Far from the time of the internet and the influences of many other people. So these two books goes into detail about problems or issues related to mediums, like medium work, like people that talk with spirits. So that like the this book, the Book of Spirits, I have to look at them to remember. Um, I'm improvising the video, so that's why uh, I don't always have the words ready in my head. The Book of Spirits talks about spirits that are not trustworthy, that are can be deceiving, that can lie. So if you are very, if you are born very sensitive, if you are born a medium, if you are born with your senses awakened, with your chakras very awakened, you can be, you can like when you can see and hear spirits, when it is easy for you to have contact with them. And if you are too naive or too trustworthy towards them, they can deceive you. That is what this book talks about, because there are different levels of purity within the spirits. So there are two classes of spirits: one that is more interested in self glory, and because of that can deceive other people to get their praise. And there are spirits that are overly eager to reach higher levels um, of their existence. So they will actually guess answers to questions that they actually don't know the answers of. So if you listen to those kinds of spirits, it can make the situation worse. Uh, and then in Septenary Man, it talks about the seven layers of man, the seven different uh, components of man, where two of them after death can remain on earth but not as pure spirits. So it talks about in particular two kinds. So one is like an almost physical representation of the person when he was still alive, but that has problems ascending to the higher realms because he's too obsessed with the pleasures of the earth. So he doesn't want to leave the earth because he's so attached to all the pleasant things that an earthly life has to offer. And the other entity is a lesser physical form. It's more it's a more emotional representation. It's like an emotional copy of the past life of the deceased person. So in this case, the person dies, but it leaves like an imprint, like an emotional or spiritual imprint. It's not necessarily like a harmful spirit. That would be the other one, the one that has more mass. But this second one is less it's less damaging, it's less negative, but it can be deceiving, and it only talks about the past. It doesn't talk about the present. It doesn't talk about its whereabouts. It those kinds of spirit just talks about the things they have done. So for mediums, if they can catch up on this kind of entities, so we have the two deceiving spirits, and then we have the two entities which a person can leave behind after he dies, and they can be deceiving. So those kinds of things, I think, is more easy to understand or to know about when you read. Like I don't know, because the idea is that often you have questions, but sometimes you don't know what questions to ask. So there is this philosophy that it's more important to ask the right question than to have the right answer, and I think that is a very interesting thought, and I think that is also the it also makes reading and studying important because sometimes by reading uh, you get more knowledge and you start to ask questions you didn't even know that you should ask because you didn't know. I can hear a cat. So I support studying. What you should study, it depends on your interest. It depends on what you want to achieve. Uh, I enjoy studying like the holistic topics, esoteric topics, spiritual topics. Beside of that, I also like to study philosophy, history, psychology, nutrition, because I also think those kind of things interfere with how we perceive reality, the physical and the spiritual realities. And so, yes, I these are my reasons for supporting studying. You should not blindly trust your deceiving emotions. Uh, this by studying in you expand your horizon, and then you can apply your intuition and your inner wisdom in that expanding universe. Uh, like a last thought before I end this live stream is that like a kid that has never left his house may have a very strong intuition and may have answers, but um, it's difficult for the kid to increase that intuition from beyond what he has already seen. So if that kid never leaves his house, he can read a book about another house, about another place, about another reality, about another person's perception of reality, and his world will expand. So reading also helps you to expand uh, your reality and your world, and then you have a bigger area in which to imply your intuition. So yes, um, I don't support the idea that you should not study, and I don't think it is deceiving to study. I think emotions are more deceiving than thought. So I will end this video and I will make another one about another topic that I also want to talk about. So thank you. This is Indigo Empire, and I will get back to you soon.